who is out in Pittsburgh. He is whether he was fired or stepped down, mutually parted ways. Only they know for sure. We don't know, and we never fully will. But what we do know is there will be a new head coach in Pittsburgh for the first time since probably a good people watching right now since before they were born and since 2007. So Tomlin heading out in Pittsburgh. We're going to start with the what's next for Pittsburgh? Like that, this is a huge change, as we mentioned too. It's been just under 20 years since they've had it. They've had three head coaches in their entire lifetime, in the entire
Right.
history of the Steelers. Now you're going on to number four. One thing we do know for sure is that person's going to get runway unless they're absolutely terrible behind the scenes. History tells us that it's going
Yeah.
to be a younger guy. They're not going to pick somebody out of the senior citizen home. They're not going to. Sorry, Pete Carroll, you're not getting a you're not getting another opportunity here. Most likely, they're going to pick up probably somebody young, somebody they could build off of. This is a new one. We've been playing who's the next coach for all the openings so far, and we got another one. So, Kelsey, what's next in Pittsburgh? Like this, one of the most stable franchises in the NFL. It's a quite the job to look at, but roster wise, there's some
Well,
holes.
yeah, there's holes, but let's be honest. Like the biggest hole you have is quarterback, but after that, it's running back, and then you probably have to fill your offensive line. But here's the thing: their defense is pretty good. They're old, but they're
Oh,
pretty good. I mean, like, yeah, you got to fill some holes there, but you can work with that defense for at least another 1 to 2 years, get some cap space that builds back up for the defense. Offensively, yeah, you got some concerns, unless you love Will Howard, which some people do. I think he could be effective game manager in the NFL. Do I think he can be a Peyton Manning? No, let's not kid ourselves, but he could be a great game manager. And there's nothing wrong with game managers, people. We like game managers on this show. So for the next coach, like unfortunately it's Pittsburgh because like this is a shoe in that like, oh hey, there's a Harbaugh on the market that would be great in this position. But yeah, it's Pittsburgh. I don't think he could ever walk those lines after wearing the purple and gold for so long. I don't think he can wear black and gold for very long. But hey, maybe I'm wrong. No, I don't know really where they go. This is like a really tough one because there's a lot of young coaches that make a lot of sense. A Lou Anarumo type of situation. Maybe even going to Cliff Kingsbury getting a shot in the black and gold. But if we like longevity in Pittsburgh, if that's what they believe, then I don't think Cliff Kingsbury is your answer because Cliff. Um, but yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. I do think they might pull something crazy, pull a coach out of college type of thing, just to because they're going to shoot for somebody that's really not a major commodity because they're going to want to make him in the Pittsburgh way. Because if you think about the three coaches for Pittsburgh, they've done the three things really well: run the ball, build great defenses, and be a great players coach. That's just how all three of them have been. And so, with that in mind, you can't really do that if you're an established NFL coach in a lot of cases because you have your own brand. And I hate that phrasing when you talk coaching, but it's like really what it is. So yeah. I don't know where they're gonna go, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is our surprise like coach that is on nobody's radar type of situation. Is what it kind of feels like.
one thing we do know too is when they do hire those guys, they're usually how do we word this? Is they aren't really known as like coordinators, masterminds. It's not like the Sean McVay, the Ben Johnson. They are the Joes and Schmoes guys. They are more, I don't want to say culture builders, 'cause that's another super cliche, but they're guys that they're going to be the CEO of the team, basically. They're not going to be not saying they don't know ball, obviously they do, but like Mike Tomlin was a DC for 1 year before getting hired. Before that, he's a defensive backs coach for the most part. So it's somebody we probably isn't even wildly on our radar, like maybe like the Rams' third defensive assistant or something that is probably who they're thinking. But because I don't know those names off the top of my head, I'm gonna just rattle off a few names that I think might kind of fit the mold. And to be fair, they might go completely against the mold. It is like I said, it's been 20 years since they last hired a coach. A lot has changed. So maybe, and before that, it was another 16 years when they hired Cowher. So things dramatically changed. But some names that come to mind: Robert Saleh feels like a very
Oh.
head coach, and I'm not gonna hold the Jets against him because A, it is the Jets with Aaron Rodgers who tore his Achilles in 60 seconds. Like we see he's doing the minis back in San Francisco. You lost not only your 2 best players, but 2 of the best 25 to 30 players in the game off that defense. Your 2 starting linebackers weren't on the team a month ago, and we saw what they just did in the playoffs game against the Eagles. Like, I think he's gonna get another shot. I think he's gonna get it relatively quick because I think you could even with the Jets, it was bad, but you could see there was some
There were some bright spots.
there was a lot of hope. There's a reason a lot of people believed in him before season started, and then the Jets factor kicked in, and that's something that eventually that Jets factor is gonna go away, but right now it's too strong. So I think Robert Saleh's a really good fit. You mentioned a defensive CEO built team builder type of guy too. I think he could fit that mold. Very hard nosed Steel City, so it fits the stereotype. The other one I'm looking at that I think he has said no, he said he's not gonna pursue it, but I think this might change things, and if they offer him the right bag and the right longevity, he might think about it. Marcus Freeman for Notre Dame. Talk about a
Mm,
young guy, a I hate it again, culture builder. 40 years old, so he's still older than the other 2, but he's still a young guy. Joe's and Schmo's leader, we see what he's done at Notre Dame leading the way, especially coming off of what they were beforehand. He's really rallied them to the point they were an inch away from winning, not an inch, they lost pretty handily to Ohio State, but they were in the national championship game this last year. I don't know how they feel about that with the whole not playing in the bowl game. That was kind of weird, but I think that could be depending on how he feels about that moving forward. Even though they did just rewrite a rule to basically guarantee Notre Dame's in the playoffs, so maybe he doesn't want to give up that too quick. But I think that's one that could be relatively interesting for sure. I think that's one that
yeah.
really sticks out.
That's kinda what I'm thinking when I'm thinking college coach. It's gonna be something like that, like a Marcus Freeman style, or they'll go to a defensive-minded head coach somewhere who has done well, but maybe is looking for a way out. Um, to the NFL side, the more I'm thinking about it, and I just looked up a report that 5 hours ago, the Steelers have requested a interview with him. It's Brian Flores, which thinking about it, it's like, "Oh, yeah, okay, that checks out," considering he was literally on staff 2 years ago, or 3 years ago now, in 2022 after he got let go from the Dolphins. He was on staff as a defensive court, like a defensive special, whatever they call them,
Linebackers coach is what his
yeah,
technical is. Yeah.
analyst. So, and he can build a defense, and he can torture teams with
Mm.
defenses, and he doesn't have the greatest track history with rookie quarterbacks, but you know what? Maybe he can change with Pittsburgh, and it gives him an opportunity where he actually has a front office that will support him through all the like hatred that Pittsburgh gets. The one thing I think it's on the safe side to say is their front office will support their coach. You said leeway and they got a lot of runway to go, whenever her coach gets in. It's legitimate. They get 3 solid years and they won't even fire you till the end of the season unless you just do terrible. Like you're going to get 3 years, if not five, and you're going to get every resource behind you, except for good field because Acrisure sucks. They need to fix that turf somehow, but I don't know, it's Pittsburgh. I don't know what you're going to do with that turf. But yeah, I think that's the one thing. And you look at Flores, and the one thing that didn't work with him in Miami was a front office that didn't help him. They were just like, all right, you got it. Go ahead. We're not going to give you anything. And we're going to give you this quarterback, but you don't get to change his mind. Like
And you
you're
didn't
stuck
want
with
them in
him.
the first place.
Yeah. You're stuck with him. This is what you get. Congratulations. So, like, if you think it that way, it's a defensive minded head coach. He even in Miami, he built a run game. He built a pretty strong defense in Miami. There just wasn't enough offense to support him. Now he has the chance to maybe come into Pittsburgh. I mean, Pittsburgh coming out and saying that's our like Schefter reporting that they already asked him for an interview is a pretty telling sign because Pittsburgh isn't very publicly known when it's their dealings of staff or player acquisition, as we've experienced with Aaron Rodgers. They don't really let you know until it's done, type of thing.
I got one last one to throw out here that doesn't fit almost any of the mold besides young, and he's even younger than the guys they've hired. We're gonna go with the youngest head coach ever hired in history at this point. Declan Doyle, the offensive coordinator for the Bears. They
Yeah.
decided in a new era, they decided to go quarterbacks kinda plagued them for the last half decade. Basically, since Ben Roethlisberger started getting hurt and started declining, it's really plagued them. They have not been able to consistently lock that one down. Maybe this is a case where we're like, you know what? Declan Doyle, you are 30 years old. He would be the youngest person on this podcast if he was on right now. He would
Wow.
be, yeah, right. That's crazy. Imagine we see what he's doing in the Bears. I know that's Ben Johnson's offense. Ben Johnson's running the ship. There it could be something they take via osmosis. Maybe he gives the right leadership, the right interviews. They find a young court. Maybe it is someone he likes, Will Howard. They're like, all right, you got leeway to make sure he's not throwing the ball out directly into the ground like he was at the combine. Make sure you can stay healthy. Maybe they just and I don't think that one's likely, but if they really want to throw off the mold, it's hey, guess what? You're 30 and we don't like to fire guys. So in 10 years, we expect you to at least be winning divisions. And by that point, he'll be 40. It's not like he'll be Signetti's age even at that point.
I mean, you just made me feel older than I already feel old when I'm watching players that are older than me continue to play in the NFL. Now you're talking about a coach who's younger than me, coaching players who are older than me. Now I feel extremely old. Is like I don't think I belong in this world anymore. Like holy crap, that
That
is
coach is
crazy.
younger than
Declan
Patrick
Doyle is like,
Mahomes.
yeah, he's a very interesting coach though because he hasn't been talked about in a lot of circles. He is a very potentially surprising candidate for a lot of cases. If he pops up on anybody's candidacy right now, but you ask the question, right? Like you have to ask the question with him: is it Ben Johnson or is it him?
Let
So
me
that's
think
going to
about
be
that. too. I think he's
Yeah.
too green. Like, that would truly be a Mike Tomlin-esque hire, considering no one knew Mike
Yeah.
Tomlin and popped up out of nowhere. So that would be a truly like, "What?"
Yeah. But I mean, look, I think at the end of the day with Pittsburgh, and this is one thing that, we have the Rooney rule in place. And I only bring this up because it is named after the owner of the Pittsburgh Steelers, because this was his designation. He got behind it. I do think whatever we see, we're going to see something along those lines. Something that is going to be a very focused pick where I think he knows what he wants, but it's going to come in the most like elongated fashion we'll ever experience, because he's going to go through like 75 interviews just because he's Art Rooney. Like, this is what he
Exactly.
does.
This is not gonna be the Patriots knowing they're gonna hire Mike Vrabel, but then just checking a few boxes
Yeah.
along the way. Like, it's gonna
Yeah.
be
And it's not going to be like a fill-in. Like, we know that for a fact with Pittsburgh. It's not going to be fill-in coach either. So it's like, if this is a hire, they're going to do their due diligence, and it's going to take a long time. And they'll probably figure it out basically right around the start of free agency, is what I imagine.